Welcome, Rinkcast, to Season 3, Episode 21 of The-Rink.com's Blackhawks Rinkcast, brought to you by PuckHockey.com, right here. Live from the COVID-19 studios. Today is Thursday, July 16th, 2020. I'm your host, Jeff Osborn, better known on the interwebs as Puck and Hostile or The Hater or whatever.
Y'all need to take a hit of this Jeffrey. It'll calm you down.
And I'm joined by my co-host and partner in crime, Mr. John Jaeckel. Hello, John.
Hello. This evening, I'm going full CBJ. I have a fearless prediction.
Whoa, hey now. Phrasing.
That's right. Yeah, right. Sorry.
Yeah. Awesome. CBJs. So we actually, you could probably talk a little CBJs tonight with Don here. He might be a little more familiar with CBJs than he's going to be with the Blackhawks, but that's okay. But anyway, as you see right here, we have Donnie from Game On Podcast, right? It's a longer name than that, but it's pretty much Game On Podcast.
Yeah, Game On, a sports podcast for everyone. Yes, sir.
There you go.
There it is.
Don, yeah, you reached out to us. You said that, you even though you're from South Bend area, you're a Rangers fan, but you're getting a little more interested in the Blackhawks and stuff. So you wanted to come on and share your thoughts with us, and it's probably good for us to talk about some Eastern Conference teams too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I'm born and raised in New York, so diehard Ranger fan, but moved out here, so figured I'd adopt the Blackhawks and watch some Western Conference hockey and jump on the wagon. I guess I'm a couple years late, but
you mean the better conference, right?
I mean, we'll see. It's tough. I mean, the Western Conference obviously has better teams right now. I think the Eastern Conference was pretty close. I think both conferences were close at the stoppage, to be honest with you. I think they were. It was really close. So
yeah. So anyone you want to give out your Twitter handle right now, so if anyone wants to follow?
Yeah, absolutely. On Twitter, it's at Game On Everyone. Also on Instagram, it's at Game On Sports Podcast. You can check us out there. Our link is in our bio on both places. We're also on YouTube. The whole name, Game On, a sports podcast for everyone. The link is also in the bio there. So yeah, check us out.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm kind of digging
better. Let's get at her.
Kind of digging what?
He's rocking the Yankees cap, and he's got that sort of New York City inflection in his delivery. He does something nice for us. He brings some flavor that we're lacking. So this is very good. We'll see where this goes.
We are definitely lacking some flavor.
Yeah, we are. We have no flavor.
Well, happy to help, gentlemen. Happy to help anytime.
Unless
awesome.
Bitterness and bile have a flavor.
Oh boy. Well, anyway, so the hockey stuff's going on. We haven't gotten together in a while, but a lot's happened in Blackhawks world. So we figured we'd get together, talk about it a little bit. Next week we may do one again next week, and then we're thinking about maybe doing kind of a grand, maybe rink wide. All the rink writers that want to come on and talk about, what's going to happen right as the playoffs are about to start, like maybe right at the end of the month. So we might have a couple more coming up soon. So keep an eye on that.
I'm gonna throw this out there as an agenda item. I think with the growing coverage of the rink across various NHL teams, and we've got, I believe all of our teams are represented in the playoffs. We could do previews of the different series in that show.
Yeah, that would be really fun. Yeah, we actually. That said, I reached out to Juliana Nakac. She's a resident Rangers fan, and unfortunately she couldn't join us, but we were going to have her on so she could talk about her Rangers, because she rarely gets to talk about the Rangers with us. So Rangers. Not that we don't let her, it's just not usually relevant because we're always yapping about the Blackhawks. So anyway. A couple housekeeping things. You're going to probably see on the website. We're going to bring on some new writers probably to help out with the coverage. So nothing's really completely nailed down yet, but keep an eye out. You're going to see us release some names and stuff of some stuff. So that's the housekeeping stuff. Blackhawks, right?
At the very least, we will have an announcement of a new writer for the Rockford Ice Hogs to replace the irreplaceable Mario Tirabassi joining us. We have not nailed down exactly who that person is yet, but we're close. We've had a little last minute issue that arose, so we're attending to that. But we will
Nailed it.
At minimum, we will have that position filled, and then we're also trying to get the Columbus franchise, the Columbus affiliate of The-Rink.com, up and running for the playoffs as well. So we're hoping to accomplish both of those. But at minimum, we'll get the Rockford position filled and get somebody moving on that.
Yeah, and you're going to see full content like we would normally do in the playoffs at the rink with covering each game. We'll do a little a game recap and stuff like that. And I've been trying to keep up with all the news items. And so, yeah, we're in full swing. It could be 11 straight months of hockey stuff, which is going to be a little taxing, but with the right amount, with the right staff, many hands make light work, right?
Yes, that's been your mantra of late. Many hands make light work.
Yeah. So, all right, well, let's get into hockey a little bit.
Let's do it.
You know, the Blackhawks, they made the play-in. Since we recorded last, there was the draft lottery, which was won by, what is it, Team X or whatever they called it, which is going to be the one of the 8 teams that loses in the play-in round. So the Blackhawks have a chance, on one hand, to advance to the playoffs, to the official playoffs. On the other hand, they have a 1 in 8 chance of getting the first overall draft pick, which honestly is not that bad a situation to be in. This is like this is the ultimate playing with house money situation.
It really is.
Yeah.
I actually think they have a better chance of getting the first round draft pick than they do getting out of the first round.
Well, yeah, there's several reasons why now. And I mentioned that last night too.
We can go into the whys of that, but yeah.
So, well, with all that happening, they ratified the CBA, the new CBA, which now has the return to play rules in effect. They're going to do the bubble thing. We've kind of all talked about that. I think, John, you and I both agree that we think this thing's going to get off the ground. It is going to roll, but we're not sure if it's going to get finished just because of the fact that with the way the COVID is, it's still rising in a lot of places. You get a lot of people around sweating, coughing, hundreds of people, even if they are in a bubble, something can happen.
Well,
you know,
I mean, quite literally because of the proximity that the players, the equipment managers, the trainers, and the coaches have just on the benches. But then when the players go out on the ice and they're, mixing it up in the corners and around the net, you have to assume for this to work that the bubble has to completely exclude anybody who is infected, whether they're symptomatic or asymptomatic. And because if it doesn't, and one case slips through, there's a potential for disaster. There really is. And that's why I'm skeptical about it. And, also the fact that it just doesn't seem that the league has ever really been, I don't think the league has ever stopped and said, you know what, maybe this is a bad idea. It's like, it's been Gary Bettman and the owners have decided that this is something they're going to do and that's it. And they'll figure it out. And that to me says that there's a priority over and above public health. And I'm not here to pontificate or proselytize about that, except to say that I just that mentality to me does not seem conducive to a successful conclusion of the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of that going on. A lot of not just in the NHL. There's a lot of that going around.
Right.
I mean,
Don, what are your opinions on this whole return to play thing?
I mean, I think they did the right thing by moving the Western hub to Edmonton.
Agreed.
I think they did a great thing with just keeping both in Canada, since Canada seems to have this thing a little more under control than we do here in the United States. Edmonton.
Hi, welcome to Nazi Canada.
I mean, Edmonton doesn't really there's not a lot going on there. So to bring this there's not a lot of people. There wasn't a lot of cases up there to begin with. So, I mean, I think they'll be safe there. Toronto was a little bit more of a riskier bet, being a large city. But, I mean, I think
there goes all of our Edmonton fans. Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I mean, I think, I don't know. I feel that they'll get it off. I mean, I'm optimistic, obviously, because we're all in withdrawal from we won hockey. So we're kind of hoping like, hey, this needs to happen for our sake and, you know, hockey fans worldwide. But yeah, I think they will. I mean, obviously you look at all these camps, you look at, you know, Pittsburgh with 9 guys that are sitting out camp right now. You see what just happened with Boston with Pasternak today. Well, yesterday, probably. All these things are happening here in the States. I personally think they need to get up to Canada quickly and not quick camp here.
Before the cases really start getting out of control.
Exactly. But I do think it's going to get off. I think they're going to get this going. I mean, it's going to be a lot of hockey. There's 52 games in 10 days. It's going to be a lot of hockey to squeeze in. It's almost like a World Cup format where you're getting 6 games a day. It's like nonstop from noon to 10 o'clock at night. I mean, I think that's every hockey fan's dream. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm sure you guys are. So, I mean, I'm gearing up. I'm just pissed off a bit that, you know, the Rangers are playing the new game on the 1st. And of course, I'm taking my family down to Tennessee that day. So it's going to have to be on the radio. I'm going to have to piss my wife off, but that's okay. It's fine.
Yeah. I actually might be having something that going on that same day as well, which is,
because you guys play at what? You guys play what? 3 o'clock?
Yeah, it's a Saturday, but it's like 3 o'clock.
Yeah, you guys play Edmonton 3 o'clock. So yeah, I mean, hopefully I can watch that live and get down there. I'm gonna have to try to speed a little bit. We'll see. All for the love of it.
So Dan, I agree with you. I think that Edmonton was a reasonably wise choice, and probably Toronto in the East because of you know, the fact that there's less cases in Canada. But I'm going to say this about Edmonton. And this is where this thing.
You're gonna really alienate all our Edmonton fans, just like that.
I'm not actually. I'm
kidding.
The only thing that could be construed as a negative is the fact that I have never had a longer day of traveling than when I went to Edmonton. No. And you know, when you've got all these teams and trainers and coaches, you have to connect to go to Edmonton from just about anywhere in the United States. I can't really think of any places in the United States that have direct flights to Edmonton. Maybe
the last I saw, most went through Calgary, I think.
Well, when I used to go on Delta through Minneapolis. So you've got a number of teams that are probably going to be connecting on 2 different flights going in there, and it's a long flight up there. I mean, you think of the sheer numbers of people that are going to be coming in via that travel protocol, if you will. I find it hard to believe that nobody along the way is going to pick up some virus. So then they better catch that when they get to Edmonton. And I know they're going to test them like crazy. The whole thing, you can sit there and war game it out and bubbleize everything. And I just don't know if you can actually stop every way it can be transmitted. I don't know if you can. So it'll be interesting to see. But I do think they probably, if they're going to do this, Edmonton was a good choice because of its relative remoteness. And my recollection of Edmonton, I haven't been there in about 20 years, but my recollection of it is that there's not a lot of trouble to get into in Edmonton relative to some other places in North America. Yeah. So it could be a place for players to lay low and be good and stay out of trouble. And who knows, maybe they'll get through this thing. So
you mean like the 2 hub cities that were reported in the U.S., Chicago and Las Vegas?
Right.
Yeah, no one get in any trouble in Las Vegas at all.
Yeah, right. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead.
They did the smart thing. They definitely did the smart thing by doing it in Canada. Now, you could say that maybe instead of Toronto, they could have done Edmonton and Vancouver because Toronto is, you know, a big city. And it's, you know, there's a lot of people who go through Toronto. So you would think that would be you'd want to keep them away from the busier places. You want to, like when they were thinking about doing South Dakota or whatever, you know, North Dakota or something like that, like out in the middle of nowhere where cases are nothing, not a big city, like a major hub.
Why not Edmonton and Ottawa? I mean, if you want
or even Edmonton and Vancouver, because Vancouver,
right. I'm just thinking that they wanted a team in the East.
Oh, I'm sure they did. Yeah, that's probably why they did it the way they did
Eastern.
it.
I mean, you had to think when they came out with those 10 cities, and I said this on our podcast too, there was no way they weren't picking Toronto being the NHL.
Right. Exactly.
It just wasn't going to happen. And I said, I 100% thought it was going to be Vegas and Toronto because they love pushing Vegas. They love that. And the NHL, Toronto, please, they're like, they're a match made in heaven. And unfortunately, there was an uptick in cases in Vegas, and the NHL made the right decision. To your point, John, I do have firsthand knowledge. I used to work for Delta Airlines a while back. And the Rangers, they do have a charter flight that is direct.
They do, yeah.
They are going to have a charter flight.
I'm not 100% sure, how all the teams travel. I know that some teams have traveled commercial, and then some will do charter. I don't think all the teams follow the same travel protocols, but I could be wrong. But I thought it was sort of a mix.
That could be part of the rules, is that they have to do charter, one way or another to figure it out. Yeah, that would be the smart way to do it.
Yeah.
You would think so.
Definitely.
You would think
and
so.
then you could avoid connections and
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
so that might be the way it is. We might have just figured it out.
There we go, right here, right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So the Western Conference is going to be in Edmonton. The Eastern Conference is going to be in Toronto. I don't really have I mentioned it online that Edmonton's going to be the home team, literally going to be the home team, and Toronto's literally going to be the home team. But it's not going to cause that big of an advantage, I don't think. But you are in a place you're comfortable with. They play in that arena. They play, whether they're going to use that locker room every game or not, they're comfortable with being in the arena. They know their way around the arena. There's somewhat of a little bit of it eases your anxiety a little bit when you feel like you're at the place where you work all the time. Someone told you to do your job in someone else's place. You could probably do it, but the person who does it there every day is going to feel a little more comfortable, a little less, so there is a slight advantage, I think, but I don't think it's enough to push any team over the edge. It just means Edmonton's going to be a little bit more cool and calm. Toronto's going to be a little bit more cool and calm. I think that's the way I look at it.
The ice in Edmonton is notoriously fast.
Yeah.
And that may favor Edmonton because they've got some great speed players. You have to think that they built their team for their ice because their ice is allegedly it's faster than all the other surfaces in the league. So that may be a little bit of an example. And then, for example, in Detroit, I know that the boards were so different there versus other cities in terms of the bounces off the boards and things of that nature. So there could be those kinds of advantages as well. I would argue for the Leafs, actually. I think for the hub city to be in Toronto may actually be worse for them because they're always so under a microscope in Toronto. I mean,
yeah,
the Leafs are everything there, and they're
the New York Yankees of hockey.
Pardon me?
They're the New York Yankees of hockey.
Oh yeah.
Under scrutiny all the time. Yeah.
Plus they have a tough get in round one. I really think Columbus is going to give them a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
why Mr. Columbus over here with his hat and his jersey on.
Unfortunately, it's not an Elvis Merzlikins. It's a Sergei Bobrovsky.
I mean, I look at Toronto, like you said, being under a microscope. I mean, if they don't do something this year with the team that they have and the players that they have, and just I don't know what to say. I mean, and they weren't doing that great at the stoppage either. It wasn't like they were killing it like they should be. I mean,
there's something very perverse about a team like Toronto that goes out and does everything, kind of like being an outsider. And I know you're wearing a Yankees hat, but like when the Yankees would go out and they'd spend a shit ton of money on a bunch of free agents, and then that year they wouldn't make the playoffs. There's some kind of perverse enjoyment from everybody on the outside when that doesn't work out. And that's kind of what's going on in Toronto. I'm sure there was probably some perverse, enjoyment from teams outside of Chicago when the Blackhawks, after they won their cups and then we're swept in the first round and then haven't made the playoffs. There's a perverse enjoyment for people outside of our fan base too.
For sure.
So
it's people in Detroit. I'm sure they love it.
Well, right now Detroit, they're not doing so hot either. So they don't have much. They don't open their mouths very much, and especially since they left the Western Conference, Detroit has kind of been like, you respect them. You didn't like them 5 years ago, but now, they're just
they're irrelevant.
They're not as threatening now.
They're irrelevant.
Yeah, and like they're not going to knock the Blackhawks out of the playoffs because they're in two different conferences unless it's in the Cup. So there's no worry about any of that.
For hockey, though, I mean, as a hockey fan, and all of us can agree, I think you like those rivalries. You love watching Detroit play Chicago. That's why it was kind of bittersweet when they went to the Eastern Conference because they had some great games. You loved, I mean, obviously they gained rivals, with Toronto and everything, but I mean, you love the rivalry. So you hate, with them in Colorado. So, I mean, it's something, it's bittersweet. And then to see them just fall hard, like dead last in the NHL and whatever, it's crazy to see.
John and I are old enough to remember when Toronto and Detroit were both in the same conference with the Blackhawks, the old Norris division.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which I still maintain. I mean, we're probably very partial on this, but that was some of the best hockey. I mean, you hated Toronto. You hated Detroit. You hated the Blues. You hated Minnesota.
Yeah.
You hated them.
See, that's
every one of them.
That's the thing. I think that here there's two things. One, the Hawk Detroit rivalry got watered down a little bit when Scotty Bowman came over from Detroit to the Hawks organization because they started to like be like this grudging respect between the two teams when the Hawks started to get really good and Detroit was still good. Although in 2013 playoffs, it got kind of ugly at times. Yeah. But the thing about the Hawks is that they have so many other natural rivals. I mean, like the St. Louis rivalry is just, it gets so ugly. And the other thing that's developed in Chicago is a rivalry with Nashville because they started this get the red out thing with their fans because they didn't like having Chicago fans come to their arena. And so there's it's the loss of the Detroit rivalry in Chicago. I don't think it's that really that painful, honestly. And because I think the Hawks still have rivals. The other problem is it's hard to maintain a rivalry if you're not very competitive, which is what the Hawks have become. Yeah. So that's the other issue.
Well, first it was Detroit, and now it's Chicago. Yeah, now they're both shrink.
Yeah.
Well, so let's talk about the Rangers a little bit, since that's your team, and then we'll wrap up with the Blackhawks stuff. That way you can get your stuff in here with the Rangers. So the Rangers are kind of what we would wish the Blackhawks would be like in a year or two, where they had stripped everything down, and then they were starting a rebuild. But the rebuild has actually gone better than they had expected. Yeah, and now they're in the play-in, kind of like the Blackhawks, basically the same position over in the Eastern Conference. But they're a team on the rise, while the Blackhawks are still a team that are like just treading water, about ready to sink at any point, unless they were to completely clean house. The only way they're going up is if they were doing a big house cleaning. Otherwise, it's going to be a couple of years. So anyway, the Rangers. Back to the Rangers. What do you think of the team?
I mean, I was shocked when they put out the letter. Jeff Gordon put out that letter. Best thing they did was say their step down and Gordon take over. I mean, he put out that letter. They were rebuilding the team, and I mean, it's hit the accelerator. I mean, really, really fast. We did not expect it to go this way. They got lucky with that second round draft pick, and they drafted Kakko. They made some really great trades. I mean, that Zibanejad trade was. Look at him now. I mean, he was a lazy POS in Ottawa. Yeah, he was a lazy POS in Ottawa. He comes to the Rangers and he's killing it. And then you pick up guys like Panarin and Trouba, which I still think we overpaid him a little bit. And you look at guys that are coming up. Tony DeAngelo is our best defenseman. Guy was a problem all over the league.
Yeah.
comes
Well,
in.
he's
Our
still
best
kind of a
defense.
problem with his mouth right now, but yeah.
Oh, he don't shut up for 5 seconds. But I'm not worried about that. Let's worry about Tony DeAngelo on the ice. Let him deal with all the other bullshit after. I don't care. But no, I mean, I'm really excited to see. My heart wants them to go all the way this year. My brain, as a hockey fan's like, there ain't no way. There's no experience on that team, but very little. They're the youngest team in hockey right now by the numbers. They have a 3-headed goalie monster that they really need to get the reins under. I mean, you got, you have Shesterkin. He was 10-2. He was the hottest rookie goalie. I mean, besides Merzlikin. This guy he gets into a car accident in Brooklyn. Of course, that's just our luck. But yeah, I mean, he's played well. I mean, and Georgiev, 17 and 14, can't complain. All our goalies, I mean, even Henrik. You look at Henrik, he's got decent numbers. I mean, he's at the tail end. I mean, you hate to see it. You want to get this guy a cup because he's up there in wins. I think he's top 5 in goalie wins, and you want to you feel for the guy. He had his chance in 2014. I still think we should have played you guys in the finals instead of LA. That was a crazy series.
We do too.
But I mean,
that was one bounce from them having 3 cups in a row.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I would have rather played the Blackhawks for sure because I was living in the Detroit area at the time and would have definitely gone out there. But yeah, I mean, I love the way the team is building. The fact that, and you touched on it at the beginning of the show, the fact that the Rangers and the Blackhawks and all these teams have a 12.5% chance if they lose to get the first pick in the draft is kind of like a best case scenario. It's a win-win if you ask me at this point. And I don't like the way the NHL did it. I'm against it on how they did that. I feel for teams like Detroit. I feel for teams like, like Buffalo and all that. Like, I feel for them because these guys are actually having a chance to advance into the playoffs, whereas a team like Detroit didn't. But if they lose in these play-in series, they have a great chance to get a first-round pick. And I mean, I think in the draft, I think it's a toss-up. I like Lafreniere, but I also like Quentin Byfield as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think they're both good. I think it's almost like a Hughes-Kakko situation where either one could go 1 and 2. We don't know. So who knows? But yeah, I mean, the Rangers, I love what they're doing. Again, we score by committee. We have 3 guys only with 20-plus goals. I mean, obviously Panarin, he's killing it.
Yeah, we're very familiar with Artemi Panarin.
I know you guys are. I don't know if you're bitter or not. I'm not sure. And I know John over in Columbus, he had him over there too. Yeah. I mean, he's great, and I love watching him play, and he seems invigorated playing in New York at home. He's got a feel for the crowd. I haven't seen them. I saw them play in Detroit this year. It was the first time I went to Little Caesars. Beautiful place. I don't know if anyone's been yet.
Good.
I haven't yet.
Absolutely beautiful arena. It's a shame that the team is terrible, but went out there, saw them play, 1-0 victory. Kind of underwhelming, but it was nice to watch. But yeah, I mean, just watching them, I don't see them going. I see them beating Carolina. I really do. But past that, I don't see them beating a team like Washington, even though they've had their number in the past. I don't see them beating a team like Boston. I just don't see it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of how the Blackhawks are. I mean, it's a lot of the same. Like, you might, in a 3-game series, something could happen. And especially with the Rangers having 3 really good goalies on their roster, having some solid guys, each one of those 3 guys could steal 3 games in a series. And when that happens, you could move on to the next round. Now, we originally thought that with the Blackhawks when we were coming into this, and then we come to find out, which we'll talk about a little bit later, that Corey Crawford might not even be available. It's looking like he won't be. So, that was we thought it was going to be the same situation with the Blackhawks, but it's apparently not going to be. But back to the Rangers. I mean, yeah, it's a fun team. Like, a lot of youth, a lot of excitement, and I think Panarin fits in like that. Like, I don't care if he's close to 30 years old or whatever he is. Like, Panarin looks like he's a 21-year-old kid jumping around on the ice, smiling, laughing, having a good time. He's a good kid. He's a good player. We aren't really bitter about the fact that that he had to go because the Blackhawks couldn't afford him, because the Blackhawks have Jonathan Toews and the Blackhawks have, Patrick Kane. They have some big salaries they had to pay on the roster. So unfortunately, it was going to get to a point where they weren't going to be able to afford him, and they didn't want to lose him and not get anything back. Unfortunately, when you weigh the two sides, it's not very equal, unfortunately.
No,
but they got something for him.
It's not, but I had the opportunity to see the Rangers here in Columbus this past season, and they were fun to watch. I think Kakko is going to be a great player, and Panarin's always fun to watch. And as far as his relative age, he's a complete gym freak, and I think he's a guy who's going to be productive well into his 30s, probably his late 30s, because he's so committed in the off season, and kind of unusual relative to some Russian players in the past. And he and Tarasenko both are very committed to to off-season training. But it's funny, going back to the Hawks and Panarin and the loss of him. At the end of the day, you can argue that Brandon Saad was a terrible return for Artemi Panarin, but today the Blackhawks have Brandon Saad and the Blue Jackets don't have anything with regard to the Panarin deal. So at the end, you can argue that Bowman getting something may have actually been a good move, because Panarin was never resigning in Chicago. We said that until we're blue in the face, and there's some people in Chicago who still refuse to accept that, but it was never going to happen. He was never going to resign in Chicago. That's why they dealt him. So,
which is a lot like, I don't want to compare it to the Robin Lehner thing, because Robin Lehner would have actually signed here if he was given the right.
He said he wanted to.
Yeah. I had an argument. I didn't have an argument. I actually had to comment on Mr. Lazarus's comment that he was going a little bit overboard, saying that a lot of people are saying that Corey Crawford is really bad. There are a handful of loudmouths that think Corey Crawford is bad. For the most part, no one thinks he's bad. It's the fact that he's unreliable. He's injury prone. He has had 2 serious concussions. He's had, other injuries. He's disappeared off the grid now twice, and he didn't show up for camp this year. He's unfit to play, which is one of a couple of things. And again, we'll talk about that a little later, but it's don't conflate things too much here. I mean, it's,
and I got involved a little bit in some of that discussion as well. I mean, I don't think anybody's saying that Corey Crawford hasn't been a really, really good goalie. He has been. There's some people saying that he's the best goalie in Blackhawk history. I don't agree with that, but I think he's right there in the top 3. The Blackhawks have had a long history, and they've had a few really, really good goalies over the years. But nobody's taken that away from him or what he accomplished with this team. It's the last couple of years where there's some big question marks, and it's not necessarily his character. As a matter of fact, I don't think it is. I think if anything, he proved a lot last year when he came back and basically battled off a year of concussion syndrome to get back and play reasonably well at times. But I think that he's fighting an uphill battle for the rest of whatever's left of his career with regard to that, because you don't get cured of it. And we'll talk about that when we get into the whys and wherefores of why he's not with the team. So we're not taking anything away from him, but Hawk fans, you got to stop living in the past. Remember what Mike Ditka said about living in the past.
I have that somewhere.
The whole world gone crazy.
But listen to the coach. Now, don't listen to the coach about much, because he's kind of a dope. But he was right about living in the past. And the Hawk fans gotta let go of it. And frankly, until they do, don't expect anything to change with the organization either. We had that debate again today about whether they should rebuild or the great drama of re-signing Dylan Strome. Who cares? Dylan Strome isn't that good.
I don't believe in living in the past. I think the past is for cowards. You live in the past, you die in the past.
There you go.
The coach.
So we just went very Chicago on you.
Yeah, hey, it's all good. I live close. I eat Portillo's. It's all good.
Don't get us started.
No, but I mean, I love Corey Crawford. I think he's a great goalie. Best goalie in Blackhawks history. I cringed at that one.
No, he's not. He's like probably about 4, maybe 4th.
Yeah,
which is not a bad place to be.
No. But I think you guys are in the same position, sort of, as we are with Henrik, where he's an aging goaltender. He was great, but I mean, you got a guy, and then the defense, Chicago's defense is getting old. You got Keith, you got Seabrook, and those albatross contracts. And I mean, it's tough to. And the other thing, I mean, I'm looking at DeHaan coming back and Seabrook coming back. All the guys that you guys had down there, the rookies that were playing D. I mean, who are you guys? I mean, obviously you have to play Seabrook and you have to play DeHaan in the playoffs.
Well, they might not necessarily play Seabrook actually, because he's coming off a hip surgery. But DeHaan's probably going to play
bilateral hip surgery.
Yeah, he had hip surgery on both hips and a shoulder. And he's notoriously has, concrete, wears concrete boots. So a guy who just came off a hip surgery, who's got, who's slow in the first place, against three of the fastest players in the entire NHL with McDavid and Draisaitl, and then you have like Andreas Athanasiou, who's one of the fastest players in the NHL, and they've Tyler Ennis, who's actually a very fast player. They actually upped their speed, and you're going to expect Brent Seabrook, who's really out of shape. It was shown in the first day. You're going to expect Brent Seabrook to be able to turn and burn with these guys. Good luck. He
should just stay on their own blue line. He shouldn't even come up.
Yeah, just wait for him.
Just wait. Just hang out.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. And I hadn't gotten the numbers, but how many years left does he have? Has he got 3 more years?
Who, Crawford?
Yeah, no, Seabrook.
Seabrook and Keith, their contracts come up the same year. They got 4 more years, I think.
Yeah, and I'll take exception, Don. I think, and I think Gate agrees with me on this. Actually, Keith at his cap hit right now at $5.5 million, he's a huge bargain, because he's definitely still the Hawks' best defenseman. And although he's not what he was 4 or 5 years ago, he's still a very good NHL defenseman. I think with his contract, actually, even though it has that recapture clause at the end of it, I think with his contract, I wouldn't be terribly surprised to see a team make a run at him at the trade deadline. I thought that might happen last year too, because his average annual value is quite good for the player he is. Seabrook, on the other hand, that's an albatross contract. It really is.
Yeah, it's bad. And 4 more years of it, and they have no way of getting out of it. They can't buy it out. They can't just terminate his contract because he would have to agree to that. And who's going to agree to that? And he can't trade it. They can't do anything with it. He's going to be on the roster until he can't physically play hockey anymore. And then he's going to be put on long-term injured reserve for the rest of his contract. And that's just going to be the way it's going to go. I was a big proponent when they signed it that I thought that they were certain that the next CBA was going to have some kind of compliance buyout in it. And we almost thought we were going to see one this time around. And that they were planning for that. They were going to use the compliance buyout, just figuring because it's the CBA was up around the time he was going to decline. And maybe they were trying to, pull a quick one, but that's not going to happen. So now they're in trouble.
Well, they can't leave him exposed in the expansion. Right?
Yeah. Well, we don't want to expose ourselves.
Well, some of us don't.
I mean, they're probably going to expose him, and I can't see why a team would take him because he's still going to be a third pairing quality guy. And if you look what happened with like Vegas in the draft, they went and they got a whole bunch of high quality defensemen that were like people's third defensemen that they couldn't hang on to, but was they were like a 1B quality defenseman on another team.
Yeah. And
they got some decent guys out there, and they played decent defense all year long, and they end up in the cup final because of it.
Yeah.
I don't think even if Brent Seabrook was exposed then, I don't think that Vegas would have taken him.
Yeah, Vegas, I think they kind of caught lightning in a bottle, and a lot of things went right for them that first year. The only scenario I could see where somebody takes Seabrook is if they would need a veteran leader, and because Seabrook is notoriously a good sort of red ass presence in the dressing room, and a leader and a guy who could tutor young defensemen, maybe. But I don't know if that's worth $7 million a year for 5 years.
Yeah, no, it's not.
So yeah.
Let's wrap up the Rangers really quick. Donnie, what's your prediction for what's going to happen?
I think they go 5 with Carolina, and depending on who they play next out of those 4, there's no way. And that's my head talking. My heart, of course, like I said earlier, but I have to think like a hockey guy and knowing the team. And I think they need this experience. I think they got lucky with this. They were still only 1 point out at the stoppage. They were 1 point out. So it could have happened anyway if the season continued. But they're in. I do think by the skin of their teeth, they get by Carolina. I think they go 5 games. And I think it looks like if it depends on who with the stupid round robin, which was ridiculous to begin with. I never understood.
Yeah, they don't know who they're going to play.
That. Yeah. But either one of those 4, I think the best because of the history, I think the best team they have a chance against is Philadelphia. Other than that, Boston, Washington, and Tampa, done. No way. No way.
I agree with you. I mean, the good thing is the Rangers are strong in net, and usually a team that steals around or whatever is strong in net. They have a goalie who can carry them or could steal those games. And Carolina, while they're a pretty good team, they got some good players on that team. They're not really strong in net. They have good defensemen and they have nice young forwards, but in net they're a little bit iffy. So the Rangers could use that advantage in net possibly to get through there, and we'll see. I guess that would be cool. You want to see some upsets in this thing.
Oh, of course. But the one thing I will say, where again you look at it from this whole COVID thing, for these rookies that are going into the playoffs, it's not the atmosphere it would normally be. So they're not going to get rattled as easy. There's not away fans. There's not any crazy. I mean, it's still, and there's no, I mean, this is longer. This time off has been longer than a regular off season. So you're looking at guys that have fresh legs. The Rangers are the youngest team in the league. So it could work in their favor. I still just don't see it happening. But I mean, normally in a regular playoff, when you go into Boston, you go into, a crazy arena full of fans, you're going to rattle a couple rookies that are playing, whether it be Shesterkin, Capo, all those guys. So it's not going to be the case. So we'll see. I mean, who knows?
Yeah. I mean, they got nothing to lose. That's the thing. They got nothing to lose. They're playing with house money and they got nothing to lose.
12.5 chance to get the first pick in the draft if they lose. So, hey.
Yeah. Our boy Aaron Goldschmidt commented on the Facebook Live. He said, came to the Rangers for picks and prospects. Chicago retains the money, takes back Lundy, pitch it. And he's just stirring the pot. Yeah.
I mean,
the pot on that one.
I mean, hey, I don't think they would trade Lundqvist for anything. I really don't. He's a Ranger. He's a Ranger for life. They want to get this man a cup. I mean, they're really running out of chances.
He'd be a lot further from a cup if he came to Chicago.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I mean, and not to knock on Chicago either. I mean, I think the whole Seabrook thing is really holding him back from rebuilding as well. Yeah. But
there's a couple of things that are holding him back.
Yeah, there's an organizational problem.
And that recently we think maybe changing, but with Stan Bowman still around, and I kind of mentioned this in our staff chat the other day, like with Bowman still around, I don't see them taking the steps necessary, but who knows? It may change without John McDonough around. We don't know for sure. We don't think it's going to change, but it could.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I'm thankful for Jeff Gordon. I mean, when Sather stepped down and Gordon made all those changes and those trades and got rid. I mean, he got rid of some players that I really loved. He really did. He sent them all to Tampa, Rangers 2.0 down there. But you know what? He made the right moves, man. I don't know what he did. He worked his magic. He did his thing. He pulled some Harry Potter stuff. I don't know what he did, but he really pressed on the accelerator for the rebuild, and it's there.
Don, let me interrupt you because I'm just really glad you brought this up, and I just hope that any Blackhawk fans who listen to this show, either now or later on.
All 5 of them.
Right now, yeah. Anyway, I'm just assuming that, but several thousand people will listen to it later on. But what you're talking about is what we've been telling the Blackhawks to do. And, the fact that Gordon wrote the letter, look, here's what's going to happen. Here you expect. Here's why we're doing it. That kind of honesty, this is what we've been asking for the Blackhawks, and to say, look, we recognize that some hard decisions are going to have to be made and some unpopular decisions. So far, the Blackhawks have shown no willingness to do that.
They do the complete
maintaining
opposite.
This, right. They're maintaining
hang on to
this
pass. They hang
dream.
on all this 3-cup stuff,
Right.
Instead
of
now moving
5
on.
years old.
Yeah.
And there's this pipe dream that this core, which keeps getting older every year and more banged up, is if they can move a few pieces around and go get Dylan Secura and go get Dylan Strome and move him in and this guy over here and go get some guy from Europe every year. We're getting the same results. And what they don't seem willing to do is to bite the bullet and do what your leadership and your management did and look at the results. And it didn't take long. It didn't take long at all. And I just think it's hopefully this will be the year 2021 season where they'll finally start to see, that this thing is doomed. Because even if they make the playoffs this year, which I guess is possible, even if they make the playoffs, they're not going deep because they just don't have the horses anymore. Their best players are all getting old. And the young guys who've been coming up, I think Doc is going to be a very good player. I think Boqvist is going to be a very good player. But you need many more of those kinds of guys. You need big, bold moves, like going out and getting an unrestricted free agent like Artemi Panarin. And you need to pick high in the draft year after year. Or Jacob Trouba. Exactly. Big moves. Yeah. Not this debate over how you're going to re-sign Dylan Strome. If I hear that again, my head's going to explode. That's what's wrong with this team right now. Is that crap. We can't afford to re-sign Dylan Strome. Who cares? He's not good. Anyway, I'm done.
I mean, he's definitely kind of slipped down the chart a little bit with the way Kirby Dach is Kirby Dach is more of the second line center of the Chicago Blackhawks than Dylan Strome is probably right now. And Dylan Strome's a third line center. So, okay.
Or a third line wing. I mean, he's becoming Artemi Panarin 2.0.
Ooh.
He may not be as good as Anisimov was. I mean, Anisimov at least had value defensively. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not a big Dylan. I think he's a good kid, but I'm not a big fan of his game.
Yeah,
I liked Artie when he was with us. I mean, he was all right. He was one of those guys where, he wouldn't score for 12 games and then he'd get a hat trick. It was one of those things.
He worked really well with Patrick Kane and Artemi Panarin. He was really good on their line, and that's what he got plugged into a pretty good situation there for about 18 months, where he was he looked like a really good second line center, but then you started to see how slow he was, and
he was cocky. He wasn't a hard worker at all. That's one thing that he was not. Watching him with the Rangers, he did not work hard. He wasn't in the corners. He wasn't doing anything. He was a lazy hockey player, but he, and I
sounds like you're talking about Nick Schmaltz.
I mean, he's obviously I can't pinpoint a lot of I don't want to sound like Don Cherry, all the Russian hockey players, but it's a stereotype, unfortunately. I mean, you have the one-offs, like you said, Tarasenko, Panarin, obviously, Ovechkin, guys like that.
It's changing. It's starting to change.
Oh, for sure. Oh, 100%. And it's funny, the landscape in Europe, period, is changing. So you're getting all these guys from, the Swiss League, Germany, Norway, places like that. It's great. And I love seeing that. Like one of the top guys in the draft this year, I think he's from Germany too. Yeah.
Stutzel.
Yeah, Stutzel. And then the guy on Detroit that they drafted last year, Moritz Seider.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's going to be a really nice player.
Yeah, you're getting.
And actually, that's the Blackhawks had Dominik Kubalik who was played on the German national team over there. I mean, he's not German per se, but he was a resident of Germany and he played on their national team.
Yeah.
Isn't the other guy, the Kubalik, didn't he play for the German national team too? Or am I hallucinating?
No, Czech. He's a Czech.
Czech. Okay.
He's a Czech, and he played in the Swiss league actually, or Swiss league, I think. But yeah, he was the leader in the Swiss league. He was the leader in the Swiss league 2 years ago in scoring, and then the guy that they signed today, I think his name is Pius Suter.
Yep.
Yeah. He was the leader. He was the leader in scoring this year. So they have their back-to-back scoring leaders from the Swiss league now are in the Blackhawks organization.
It's a shame they can't play in the playoffs this year because I think you guys would see a lot from these guys. I mean, I watched a couple highlight videos. The two defensemen, Kalenic and Ian Mitchell. I mean, man, just solid guys.
Well, Ian Mitchell, you're like, again, this is you looking from the outside, and we see this all the time. The Ian Mitchell thing has been an ongoing saga for like 2.5, 3 years.
Really?
In Chicago about whether he's going to sign. Is he going to sign? Is he not going to sign? Is he going to sign? Is he not? And there's been this teeth gnashing back and forth whether he was going to sign. There was never any doubt he wasn't going to sign in Chicago. He said from the beginning he was going to sign in Chicago, and he did. But people are a little bit touchy because they've had a couple of draft picks that have not signed to kind of fled out in other places. Like this year it was Ryan Shea, and a couple of years ago, I mean, they had like Kevin Hayes. Yeah. So
Kevin Hayes.
It's happened. It was never happening with Ian Mitchell though. Ian Mitchell has actually, and Aaron and Mario, we talked about earlier. We saw them in camp the first year when they drafted him, and we've been big fans of Ian Mitchell, ever since they drafted him. But it's been a wait for him to go through college and stuff like that. And he might be a good, maybe middle pair defenseman someday. He's not going to step right into the lineup and do it, just like Adam Boqvist did this year. He struggled a little bit. He's young. He's going to need to learn. I don't know that even if Ian Mitchell could play, that Ian Mitchell probably would not be in the top 6 right now for the Blackhawks because of experience. You don't want to throw a kid who's never played a shift of NHL hockey,
of pro hockey,
to have his first experience against the best player in the world. That's, you'd have to heavily shelter him for that. He's just, it wouldn't happen. But that's not to take away from the point that these players that they Blackhawks signed, Pius Suter, Wyatt Kalenic, and now Ian Mitchell, they made those official, are going to be, useful pieces in the organization. That's about all you can say at this point. They might be useful pieces in Rockford, or they might be useful pieces in in Chicago. We don't really know. The Pius Suter thing, I said it today. I'm looking for the meatheads out there that are going to say, oh, well, he's going to have the same numbers that Dominik Kubalik had this year because he played in the same league and he led the league in scoring. That's not necessarily how it works. Pius Suter is probably going to be more of Dominik Kahun. And this is Tyler Cameron and I kind of went back and forth on Twitter about this. We were agreeing about this, that he'd be more of a Dominik Kubalik, Kahun than he would be a Kubalik, which is not to say he's not a useful player. He's a guy under $1 million. He could play center. He could play wing. He could score. He's always got the skill to score. So if he's a good third line winger, like that's a win in Stan Bowen's book. That's not a disappointment.
If you're going to make him Dominik Kubalik, you better be able to shoot that puck, because Dominik Kubalik can shoot that puck.
Yes, can.
Yeah,
he really can.
Yeah.
He's fun to watch.
When I was cutting up the highlight video for last year for Kubalik coming in, that was the one thing I noticed. They used him on the point on the power play. They let him use his cannon. I saw a lot of that,
man.
Yeah, he can bring it down.
He's got a shot, that's for sure, and it's something that
he reminds me of a little bit. He's a left-hand shot, but he reminds me a little bit of number 72. He really does.
Panarin?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's not as dynamic as Panarin.
He's not as fast as Panarin.
No, he's not. But he's not as slow as you say either. I mean, you keep saying he's slow, and I don't think he's a slow
kind
player.
of lumbering a little bit.
Oh, I think his skating style is a little wonky, but
I think he's closer to Victor Edsel than he is Artemi Panarin in speed.
No, shit, Victor Edsel, man, I'm closer to Victor Edsel. But no, I think he's got, man, that shot. He can time it and he can place it, and it's lethal. And he's also smart. If you watch him and how he moves and how he gets into position to shoot, I mean, that's a guy who's going to get a lot of goals. And I don't know. He strikes me as being a little bit more dynamic than even The-Rink is. And it'll be interesting to see over their careers who ends up being the better player.
Yeah, that's kind of what the way I kind of look at Kubalik is in the same ballpark is Alex DeBrincat. They both have, they both know how to shoot. They both know how to find a place, a soft spot in the offensive zone to shoot, and they've got pretty good shots. While Kubalik's a little slower than DeBrincat, but he's bigger than DeBrincat, so they both have their qualities that push them to that level.
I don't think he's slower than DeBrincat.
I think he is. DeBrincat's pretty fast. He was faster this year than he was years previous.
Yeah.
And I'm known as the DeBrincat hater, but I think he was faster this year. It didn't help him any, certainly not, because he's got 10 goals, he's only got 19 goals or whatever. So it didn't help him score any.
He could have 40. I mean, if he gets, in the right situation, he gets the right guy feeding him the puck, he could easily have 40. I mean, I don't want to write off Alex DeBrincat. I think he's got a better upside than Dylan Strome, for example. But I think that I don't know. It'll be interesting to see because to me, Kubalik is a more dynamic player, and that shot is just devastating.
It is, but I mean, yeah. Kubalik also played in pro leagues. Was playing in a pro league before he came here. DeBrincat came right from junior. DeBrincat's considered, younger. Kubalik's a little older. So again, there's ups and downs to each player, but I think they're kind of like in the same echelon.
Yeah, same type of player, same style of player. Yeah.
Right. They're secondary scoring. They're supportive scoring, which is fine. The Blackhawks need that. Yeah, people think that like if we don't say that they're the best player in the entire NHL, we're ragging on them. We're not ragging on them. Having Dominik Kubalik to be a good second line, the equivalent of what they used for a first round draft pick in Alex DeBrincat. Now they have a Dominik Kubalik who's in the same general echelon of players. That's pretty good. They got him for a 5th round draft pick. I mean, they was thrown away by LA.
And from an outsider looking in, watching Kubalik play, I mean, I think he's just as good on the puck as he is off the puck as well. He finds his way into scoring, and with his shot, that's just going to be lethal. And as he grows, and you get like you guys said, if you get the right line mates with him, forget it. The same thing with DeBrincat. I mean, you guys have pieces there, and again. Looking as an outsider, I just started watching the Blackhawks, so I'm by no means, like I am with the Rangers, but watching them and going to games because I'm closer, so I can go check out a Blackhawks game, even though, man, they are expensive. But I mean, going to a game and watching these guys, they have the pieces there. It's just a shame when you see a guy like Seabrook get burned and then Crawford just gives up on the play. And at the end of the day, I mean, that's the thing that I hate to watch. But you have these young guys like Doc and Kubalik and DeBrincat. I mean, and then muddled with Kane and Taves. I mean, you can't hate on either one of those guys. So I mean, I don't know. I feel, and that's why, and I hate to hijack the conversation as far as and go back to the playoffs, but
no, you're good.
I do feel that they can beat Edmonton now. Some Blackhawks fans and even you guys may say that could possibly be the worst thing for them and management to give them hope to stay the course, possibly. But I just feel with a mix of the young guys and the experience and, with Taves and Kane and Keith, I don't know. The problem now, and I said this before, Crawford was unfit to play. Now what are you going to do? You have Dell and you have Subban.
Yeah, Delia and Subban.
Delia, sorry. Yeah.
So, I think that the Blackhawks as an organization need the number 1 overall pick a lot more than they need an appearance in the second round of the playoffs.
100%.
Because this core is done winning Stanley Cups. Mm-hmm. They're done. They're not going to do it. There's not enough there anymore.
Well, at least not in this contract cycle, unless they were to come back like on more budget-friendly deals to, be the veteran in the room, play third line center kind of thing.
Yeah,
but not in this contract cycle.
But then you need that excellent core of players to win a Stanley Cup that you don't have right now. And when you talk about, for example, all the pieces being there, they've got a couple of good young scoring wings. They do. I don't know if Kubalik or DeBrincat are ever going to be what you call great 3-zone players, Brandon Saad's a really good 3-zone winger, but he's not a big time scorer anymore. Although he's had 30 goals plus a couple of years in the NHL, so he's only 26. But the thing you mentioned about Kirby Dach, his development is so important to the Blackhawks because there's still some question out there, I think, whether he's going to be a center or whether he's going to be a wing. And probably scoring winger in terms of they've got to get they first of all, they need a first line center of the future. Second of all, they need a second line center now. They're weak down the middle, and the team's really been notoriously weak down the middle for years. Even going back to the Cup years, that was always something they did at the deadline, was go out and get a center. And then the defense needs to be rebuilt. And then you can look at the scoring and the top six, but you need an effective bottom six too, and that's something that this team's been missing for 5 years. I mean, you need guys who can go out and wear the other teams down. And
David Kampf isn't going to do that.
I don't think so. No. And Zack Smith isn't going to. And
well, yeah, clearly he's not now because he's unfit to play. Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan Carpenter. Okay, he's a good guy, but you need 5 more of those.
Yeah, I like Ryan Carpenter.
So the point is that it just seems the Blackhawks need more really, really good or potentially really good difference-making players, and they don't have enough of those yet. I still would argue that Kubalik and The-Rink are going to be more secondary type players, but those real fundamental players of a championship team, young guys, I think Dach maybe, Boqvist maybe, but they have a long way to go, and they have a lot of growing to do before they get there.
Dach is, and I know it's only camp. I know it's only been training camp, but the few videos that I've seen of Kirby Dach, he looks like he's really asserting himself, and he's stayed in shape, and he was going hard to the net and stuff like that. So that's all stuff we want to see. Yep. Hopefully, he could develop into that guy who would be the second line center
and win some faceoffs.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, he's still young. It's his first year in the NHL, coming right out of junior. So. Yep.
Way too early to write him off. I think he's going to be a really good player, whether it's at wing or at center. But they need a couple of centers actually for the future.
I mean, he seems like
that was just kind of why we want them to get another high pick. We want them to bring in another high end forward to go along with Dach and that younger core, because they've got enough defensemen. There's no reason they would need to go out and get another, puck moving defenseman. They've got 1,000 of them in their to varying degrees, and they need a goalie or they need some more scoring forwards.
Yeah, and you know what? I would tell Hawk fans too to watch this series and look at guys like Darnell Nurse and Adam Carlson. I think that's his name, Adam Carlson. Adam Larson, sorry. There's so many damn Swedes out there. I can't keep them straight anymore. Adam Larson. But look at guys like Nurse and Larson, Oscar Klefbom, guys like that. Their size and how their style of play. I think the Hawks need 1 or 2 young guys like that too. I really do. You can't have a defense full of 5'11", 170-pound defensemen who really aren't very effective in their own end. You're gonna get torched every night if that's your defense. Yeah. It's not just about defensemen scoring. Defensemen got to defend too. Yeah,
you don't see like Adam Boqvist blocking a lot of shots or breaking up 2-on-1s or 3-on-1s or stuff like that. I mean, it's just not his thing. You're going to see him in the other end dancing around below the other goal line. And you know what? If it works, great. That's wonderful. That's something that you don't see a whole lot in the NHL. But you're going to need guys on the back end too. They're going to need to be able to cover for that kind of play. And
I think
you can't have the same player everywhere.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see him become another Duncan Keith. I don't think he will. I think his upside is really an Erik Karlsson type of player. I think that again, that's great, but you got to compliment those guys. When Ottawa had those great teams, they had Erik Karlsson, but they also had Cody Ceci, and they had other guys who could play defense. And those guys are not glamorous. The Nicholas Hjalmarssons, they're not glamorous, but those are guys who are so fundamental to winning in the NHL, especially in the playoffs. So again, I think it's a good conversation, Don, and I appreciate your perspective from the outside. But we live this team every day, and we know where the bodies are buried.
No, I understand that. I completely understand, and it's just, I want to see, a team like the Hawks, do well. I mean, being they're my adopted team now at this point. The guys on the Western Conference. So, I'm gonna starting to follow them a little bit more, like I do the Rangers. I mean, and like I said, prior to recording, they only play the Rangers twice a year, so I really don't care. Obviously, I root for the Rangers when I go, but whatever. I mean, I still like watching them. I think they're an exciting team to watch. They just have, and like you guys said, management issues and, a direction that they don't know which way they're going yet. But I think they'll get there. They have the pieces. They do. But it's just a matter of how they want to do it. And I think the Rangers are now one of those teams that are like the poster child for these kind of rebuilds. And it's weird because we've never been in that light before. and me knowing the Rangers and where the bodies are buried, like we've never been in that light. And it's
because Sather, and that's because Glenn Sather is a lot like how Stan Bowman was, hanging on to veterans too long because they were big names for marketing and all the ex-Oilers he brought in. While it worked at the beginning, then that was not working anymore. Bringing all his old buddies, all the coaches were all his old buddies. It was kind of like, that whole thing. Once they kind of cleaned in the front office, they cleaned the front office out. They got a guy in there with a fresh perspective that was going to make some moves and not, he didn't have any favorites from, the last team that he was GM at that he was going to bring in. And that's good. That's good for you guys. It's good for the Rangers, good for New York.
Yeah.
For the NHL.
Yeah. I mean, it's always great. And that's the other thing too. It's always good to see an original 6 team doing well. And the Blackhawks, the Rangers,
Except Toronto. We don't want to see it. Or Detroit.
I dislike Toronto. I don't mind Detroit. Living in the Detroit area for a little bit when I moved to the Midwest, that's okay. Whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's nice to see. I just dislike Toronto. I hate their attitude. Their fans suck. Going out there, they're just brutal people. They right there with them is Tampa Bay, because you wear a Ranger jersey to Tampa and it's like. They like John said earlier, they cry about it. Like, oh my God,
that's what it is with Nashville.
Yeah, it's brutal, and I got so much crap for it. And it's like, first of all, there's more Ranger fans here than anyone. It's like the 6th borough in New York. Calm down. You have half our team. Right. You have half our rejects that we didn't want. I shouldn't say that. I miss McDonough. I really do. But
sounds a lot like Arizona and Carolina.
Yeah,
I mean, all the Chicago rejects.
Yeah, I don't know. Toronto, Tampa, and don't get me started on the Islanders. I'm not even going to go there. I don't even like saying that. But yeah.
Well, we know a little bit about the Islanders with having, Robin Lehner this year. And I mean,
my buddy,
that's a whole weird situation, but
my buddy that lives back home in New York is really good friends with Calvin DeHaan. Because he played for the Islanders. He's friends with a lot of the Islanders, which I just hate that he's friends with them. But yeah, I mean, DeHaan seems like a good dude. Excited to see him come back, hopefully, and do well.
He is the Hawks' second best defenseman, and there were some nights this year where he was the Hawks' best defenseman. I think the thing with him is that that shoulder, I think, is going to be a constant nagging problem over the remainder of his career. And there was some concern that after this latest flare this year, that it might be the end. And we'll see, because the Hawks, if they have any chance at all against Edmonton, I think he's got to be playing 20+ minutes a night and really playing a big role and really stepping up. Because the everybody else on that defense, with the exception of Duncan Keith, is a question mark.
Do you think he plays against McDavid when he's on the ice? DeHaan, healthy.
Keith will for sure.
Yeah.
And they're both left side players. So I don't know if they would play together. But Keith will.
I think what's been going on in at least camp is that Keith's been playing with Bohlqvist, which is. But
wow.
That's what they've been saying has been going on in camp.
Yeah, well, Bohlqvist is going to get a baptism by fire. I mean, like,
well,
you know what?
If you go in there and say, what the hell? We're just going for experience. We're not expecting anything out of this, then fine,
Yeah.
Go down guns a-blazing. Let the kids figure out what's going on. Let them feel it, feel the playoff atmosphere for a little while. I don't hate on that at all. Let Doc see it. Let Bohlqvist see it. Let these players see what it's like to be in a playoff type atmosphere.
I totally agree.
With how play is so much different than it is, during the regular season. And, you got to get kind of a taste of it. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is I think this is the best time to do it too. I mean, in this kind of situation, like I said earlier, there's no atmosphere in these arenas. There's no fans. There's no fans breathing down your neck, making fun of you, cracking on you and chanting your name or anything like that. In the playoffs, there's no towel even.
Allegedly, the league now has asked people to record videos of chants, which
you heard what I said.
So
Stupid.
Cringy. Yeah.
Stupid. I will refuse to. If the Rangers reached out to me, I tell them to go kick rocks. I'm not doing that.
The Chicago's done it with several. I've seen the emails that they've sent out to do it. It's so cringeworthy.
They're trying to be like soccer teams where they got the cardboard cutouts and all the BS, and that's cool. But what are you gonna between every game, the 30, 40 minutes you have, you're gonna change the cardboard cutouts to the home team, and that just sounds stupid.
I don't. Yeah, I like what they did in the Korean baseball league where they put the stuffed animals in the crowd. I thought that was cool. That was funny.
Yeah, they also had sex dolls.
Yeah,
they got in trouble for that.
Yeah,
yeah, that was funny actually. Gary Bettman, it's always some gimmick with him, and I mean this whole crowd noise thing. I mean, come on,
just stop.
Really?
You dumb it down that way. Like we know there's nobody there,
right?
Yeah.
Stop with the charade. We know. I personally would love, and I've said this in my podcast, if they left the mics on the ice and let the players say whatever they wanted, I think that would get ratings up.
Cool too.
100%.
As hockey nerds like John and I are, and you are, like, I love hearing that because I'm used to hearing that. I play hockey. I'm used to hearing that kind of talk on the ice. It's interesting for me to hear it.
Yeah.
But you're also going to get those people out there that are offended by when a guy says fuck or shit or whatever, which is, unfortunate, but that's going to happen.
Yeah, hockey players historically have used some pretty salty language on the ice.
Every sport does that, though.
Yeah,
every sport.
That's true.
What are they going to do with baseball? What are they going to do with baseball when someone strikes out? Come on. I don't get
first thing the guy yells is fuck.
Yeah. I don't care if it's in Spanish or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It don't matter. So I don't know. I think the league would benefit by just keeping it out there and not having a tape delay and just leaving it out on the ice. Whatever, man.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not going to happen because they're going to be scared of some Karen calling in and saying that my Bobby heard you say shit, and I'm very upset.
Meanwhile, he goes to public school.
Yeah, exactly. He goes to public school and he says that to his friends.
Yeah,
when I say this as a parent. And I say this as a parent who knows that he has kids that say that to their friends.
Yeah, kids sitting in his room playing Fortnite, cursing at 2 a.m., but you're worried about him watching the game. The hell out of here.
You don't play Fortnite with my kid at 2:30 in the morning, do you? Because it sounds a lot like him.
No, I don't. My daughter might. My daughter might, but not me.
Yeah.
That's not me. It's not what I do.
Anyway, I'm gonna reel it right back in so that we can wrap this thing up. But I want to talk about kind of how the developments that have happened because I don't want to miss them. We probably will do another one next week because there's probably gonna be more developments. But I'm gonna kind of ramble kind of down this. We could talk about it, or we could just move on from it. But we talked about the team needing to change. Danny Wirtz has implemented this new thing, this all for one slogan, which is now apparently replaced. They didn't officially replace it, but it seems like it's replaced the old one goal thing that they were doing. It's a slogan. It doesn't matter. I don't care too much about it. It is, the biggest thing to me is it's change. It's some kind of change. Move on from the past. Let's start looking forward. And so I'm happy with, I'm okay with it. I don't care either way. If they kept the one goal, I wouldn't care either. So,
but is it really a change, or is it just basically a different play from the same playbook? Let's have a clever marketing slogan. Let's put the usual spin on our off-season moves. And
well, you're an ad guy though, man. That's how it goes. Every company does it.
Listen. Well,
but it is a change.
Frankly, I think John McDonough in many ways lucked into a great situation when he came to the Hawks. I think bringing back Pat Foley, putting the games on home TV, those are no-brainer, low-hanging fruit, as they say in the ad game. But I think he some of the campaigns were great. I thought the one goal campaign for the first 2 years was fun and smart. And but so it just seems like, hey, let's come up with a new marketing slogan. but it's still the same off-season, hype from the PR department about some guy they're sending from Europe or some college kid. And, I want to see bigger change from this organization and from Danny Wirtz. I'm a little concerned that they got rid of McDonough, but they're not really changing the playbook at all, and that as an organization, and that really concerns me because it's hard to say McDonough was the entirety of the problem. If they keep doing things exactly the same way, he wasn't the problem. You got to change the behaviors. You got the way you do. I don't know, but just an ad campaign. Probably not. Shouldn't read too much into it. But I'm kind of anxious. I mean, we thought they were going to make a move for a new GM or for a new head of hockey operations. I don't think it's going to happen with all these promotions they did recently. I don't think it's going to happen. No.
Yeah.
Well, so
that's that. I'm just going to pause for a second here. I know Don's he's short on time, so he's going to have to take off. And you and I, John, are going to talk about the rest of this. But John, Don, one more time, you want to give out, your Twitter again and your podcast name so that people can look it up.
Absolutely. Again, on Twitter, we're at Game On Everyone. Instagram is at Game On Sports Podcast. YouTube is the whole name, Game On, the sports podcast for everyone. I usually do, for the hockey fans, I do my hockey show. It comes out on Mondays on YouTube. So definitely check it out. Jeff, John, I appreciate you guys having me on. Honestly, can't wait to, would love to do it again sometime during the playoffs, talk a little, once I get my Blackhawk knowledge up, keep up with you guys a little bit. But thanks again. Looking forward to the playoffs, and we'll be in contact, boys.
Yeah, take care, man. We'll see you later.
Right. Take care, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, bye-bye, guys.
All right, cool. That was cool. Thanks, Donnie, for joining us. Added a little new flavor to the mix here. So anyway,
you got that New York street vibe. It was good.
Yeah, it was. I wasn't expecting that. But that's really cool. When Juliana can come on sometime, she can come on. She can talk about the Rangers too, because she's our resident Rangers expert. She couldn't come on today. She wasn't feeling well, and so she couldn't come on. But next time she will. But anyway, back to the Blackhawks. We were saying the new slogan thing. I don't care too much about it, honestly. It's just to me, it's a slogan. If you're making a change, hopefully that indicates you'll make more changes, and that's all I can say. That's just the only way I can think about it. Otherwise, I don't care either way.
Yeah.
But you were saying about the promotions, demotions. Al McIsaac, who was the assistant general manager, was actually technically demoted, sent more over to like a scouting. He was going to run like some scouting stuff. And then they promoted 3 guys. I don't remember exactly which 3 guys they were. I don't know. One was Mark Eaton, but they promoted those 3 who are going to now each take a portion of the duties of the assistant GM and do them. So you're not going to have one assistant GM. You're going to actually kind of have 3. And Al McIsaac moved to a different part in the organization. I think you have some feelings on the, more of the back office stuff than I do. You're more aware of how it's structured and stuff. So you go ahead and take it away.
No, I just think that when you hand out all these promotions, it pretty much says that you're not bringing in a new head hockey person. Because why promote all these people if you're going to hire somebody else and they're going to completely turn things over? So I guess they're making a commitment to keeping Bowman around and as GM. And I don't know. I think I've gone back and forth on Bowman over the years. But I think he's had his good sections and he's had his bad sections for sure. Yeah, and the last year or so has been hard. And I think going back to his just vastly overhyping Dylan Secura. I think I think he insults the fans sometimes. I think he's a con man sometimes, and a bullshit artist. And he's kind of done that with the Ian Mitchell thing too. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm not going to say. I'm not taking anything away from him because Ian Mitchell could be what he could be, but like hyping him up, like he's not going to be number 1 overall draft quality guy. He's going to be a guy who may work on this system somewhere in the middle of the second pair or something like that, and that's fine. That's great. If he can make a good NHL career off of that, that's eventually he could be that eventually. Yeah. But they've built up an expectation. I mean, there's a lot of fans who think he should come in and play in the playoffs and he'll be a huge difference maker. And I don't see that happening, even if he could play. And this is the problem.
Even our guy Aaron, who covered him for years at Denver, University of Denver, said that you can't just put him in the lineup like that, like he'd get eaten alive.
Right. So we'll see. I mean, if they're gonna stick by Bowman, that's fine. But I don't know. It's funny. One of our commenters on Twitter today commented on the fact that they're getting younger, which is good, but they're getting even smaller, and they seem to be going even more in that direction. And every year after year, the teams that win in the playoffs are big and nasty and skilled. But nasty guys and those three own players, and I don't know. I my faith in Bowman's talent evaluation based upon things he's said about his players is just not real high. They need somebody who hits more than he misses, because they're not a very good team. They're still not a very good team, and unfortunately they keep fooling enough people every year that people accept this crap. Well,
that was the thing I was going to say is, just because you get younger doesn't mean you get better.
Right.
Younger, it has to be good young talent. It doesn't have to just be young talent. You can't have a team full of third line 22-year-olds. Like you have to have high end younger talent.
Yeah, and young guys got to develop, and you got to give them time. So it's funny. We were watching tape of the kid from Wisconsin that they signed, and
Wyatt Kelenic.
Kelenic. And I'm watching tape of him coming up the ice with the puck, and nobody's near him, and nobody's challenging him, and nobody's standing him up at the blue line. And I said to Mario, he's never going to have that kind of time and space in the NHL. Just not going to happen.
No, someone would poke it away from him at center ice about.
Right. Or somebody would flatten him, if he's got his head down. So again, it's just too easy to project these guys as being something great when the transition to the NHL is so significant and it's so hard. Some guys make it, some guys don't, and we're going to see. But I mean, Bowman will keep telling us that all these guys are going to be great and future Hall of Famers. And I just don't know if we're going to get different results from this team.
No. So, all right, they'll be going into the playoffs. They've got their playoff roster. It's an expanded roster. Basically, the Blackhawks finished. It's basically all the Blackhawks have finished the season with the team except for Zack Smith and Andrew Shaw, and then they've got Brent Seabrook is back skating. I don't think he's. Just because he's skating doesn't mean he's in game shape. So I don't think that Brent Seabrook's going to play. It wouldn't be a smart idea to throw the 30-whatever-year-old Brent Seabrook just coming off double hip surgery, not having played any more than potentially a one exhibition game back into, an NHL type thing. Kind of like, what I said with Ian Mitchell, throwing them to the Wolves right off the bat. It doesn't mean much to me.
Yeah.
The same could be said for Calvin DeHaan, but I think brings more to and it wasn't his wheels that were hurt. It was his shoulder.
It wasn't his legs. Right. Yeah. I mean, I watched some tape of Seabrook working it out a little bit, and I wasn't seeing like a lot of burst in his skating. He was doing sort of a line touch drill, and I didn't see a lot of burst, but who knows, could have been at the end of practice too. So it's really hard to say, but
you didn't rag on his beard any, did you? Because I did, and the beard truthers came out and attacked me on Twitter because I said that he could have probably shaved a little bit and got a haircut, look a little younger when you come out on the ice. Try to just show you that maybe you're a little reinvigorated, and everyone got hurt. Got ass hurt because I said he should have shaved a little bit to come out there. Big deal.
It's a little hypocritical of you, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. That's exactly my point. But I certainly don't look young and spry at any point.
No, neither do I, man. I'm hobbling around like I'm 75 years old. I threw out my back the other day. Yeah, but anyway, I think you hit on something earlier. I think that the team may be looking at this as like this is a really good opportunity to get some of these younger guys the experience and to get them to expose them to some really good young players from another team that's an up and coming young team. I from that standpoint, I don't think there's anything to lose in that regard. The exposure for Boqvist, the exposure for Doc,
No, that's all
even
good stuff.
Dominik Kubalik, and so I think that's all really good. And who knows, maybe they hand the reins to Colin Delia, and it's something that Delia can grow on in his career, which I think we agree should be at the NHL level, whether it's probably more likely as a backup, but so that I think that's all good, and again, I'm Mr. Negative Nancy, but I'm going to say it. I mean, I would almost prefer that they have a good series and they learn some things, but they lose and get that first overall pick.
Yeah. Take it 5 games, get some experience, win something, feel what it's like to win a playoff atmosphere game. That's great. I don't see them beating the Oilers, and especially now, because now we're going to get into the reason, the big reason why the Blackhawks are not going to advance as of right now, and that's Corey Crawford. Right now in net, Corey Crawford hasn't shown up to camp, and in this state of the NHL, they're not disclosing any injuries. They're not going to tell you if the player's sick. They're not going to tell you if the player's hurt. They're just going to say he's unfit to play.
Yeah.
And right now, so there's a couple of choices with Corey Crawford because he did not opt out, which Mario suggested that on Twitter, and that was a good catch. It could have very well been that he just had a new child, didn't want to, he wanted to be able to see. It could have been. I don't think it was,
I have a theory.
But at this point, he's either hurt because he's got reoccurring symptoms of his concussions, and he's back in the dark room again, this is exactly what happened back then. He just didn't show up. No one had talked to him. Remember how many times we said how weird it was that no one had even talked to him? And this is kind of the same thing, because I know for a fact that most of the players in the Blackhawks locker room don't know where Corey Crawford is either. It's just not being talked about.
Let me throw some things out. I mean, there's a couple of possible scenarios, and who knows? And I don't have any special insight on this. Nobody's told me anything and about this, and I don't think anybody ever would on something like this. But I think that one could be that his agent has had some negotiation with the Hawks about an extension, and it has not gone well. That's one possible scenario.
I don't know, man. I can't holding out for this thing for a contract negotiation.
Well,
that just tells me as a GM you're an undependable player.
Well, but think about it.
I mean, Taylor Hall, he could do the same thing.
Think about it. If they're offering him $2 million a year, and he believes he's a $5 million a year player, hey, Corey Crawford's the kind of guy who might get a little pissed off about that, from what I know of his temperament. All right, I'm just saying. The other possibility I think is more likely. I said it yesterday. I don't believe that it has anything to do with a contract thing. I think he's either hurt or he's got COVID. Well, and I don't think I doubt it's COVID, but I think because they didn't designate him unfit to play, which is I think is the thing that they do with COVID.
No, they did. They did say he's unfit to play.
They did. All right.
Yes. That was the first thing that came out after he wasn't on there. They asked what happened. They just said Corey's unfit to play, and that's all they said. It
could also be that he's having concussion symptoms again.
Yeah,
that wouldn't surprise me at all.
I think honestly the most likely thing is that he has COVID, but and he may or may not. I don't know anything. I'm just saying, and I'm not saying it. If he has it, he has it. It's, that's just the way it is. I'm not blaming him. I'm not casting any wishes on him or anything like that. I'm just saying, it seems like the most likely thing is that he has COVID. It's weird that he hasn't shown up. He didn't check into camp at all. It's not like he left like Dahan did. Dahan has a family emergency and he left camp.
Yeah.
But he was out there the first day. He showed up, he signed in, he took his tests, he did all that stuff.
Yeah.
The only thing that makes any sense is the one player who didn't is Corey Crawford, and no one knows where he's at. That kind of seems like he's sick.
Yeah, well, you know what? At the end of the day, he's not there. And whatever it is, whether it's concussion or whether it's COVID, it may not bode well for him playing, anytime soon, because COVID wrecks people physically. It's not like you guys.
He's going to be a free agent, and they shouldn't cast more than, or they not cast. They shouldn't, count on him for a year or more than a year or two. And even if you were doing that, look at what's happened the last couple of years when Corey Crawford gets hurt and this team has nothing behind him. And they're not going to be able to afford to get like one of those 1A goalies. They're going to have Colin Delia, or they're going to have Malcolm Subban, or they're going to have Kevin Lankinen back there. And look what happened before they had to bring in Cam Ward, because Corey Crawford was undependable because he was an injury risk. And last year, they brought in Robin Lehner. It was a little bit of a different situation. But in the back of their mind, when they're signing Robin Lehner, they're not signing him because they think that Corey Crawford is going to be their goalie for 60 games this year.
Right.
You don't sign Robin Lehner to $5 million if you think Corey Crawford was going to be coming back. It was going to be a 60-game starter for you.
Exactly.
You just don't expect it. So you got it. That's why we kind of said, the Asker off. They should draft him if they were in the 9, 10 range or whatever. But we were kind of saying that too, because they're not going to be able to go out and afford to get a top end goalie. They would have to luck into something or draft someone or something like that. You're not going to get like a Bobrovsky coming here, and your opinion of him aside, you can't afford him. He's double the salary of, and even like a Braden Holtby or something like that.
Somebody's going to pay Holtby $7-8 million.
Yeah, the Blackhawks can't afford that.
No,
they can't afford that at all. And I was talking with Mark about this. I was talking about Laz about this today. That while when the Blackhawks decided that they were going to let Lehner go because they wanted to get something for him, the thought was the ask was 5 for 7, or 5 for 7, or no, 7 for 5, 7 for 5, $7 million a year for 5 years. And I had heard similar to that as well. But then as talks got down, he started bringing it down, saying he was willing to take less years or less money. And now what I've heard is that he was going to possibly sign is to be the 1B to Fleury's 1A in Vegas for 5 times 5. Now the Blackhawks could definitely afford $5 million goalie. They have to be able to afford a $5 million goalie, because if you can't afford a $5 million goalie, you're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Right.
Because a $5 million goalie is minimum for a good starter in the NHL.
It's definitely. That's a sweetheart deal for a good starter. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I wish they would have kept Lehner. They didn't think we were going to make the playoffs. They didn't. I know. But they should have not hung on to Corey Crawford. I mean, you weren't going to get anything for Corey Crawford, but then let him go at the end of the year. He's 35. Like, it is what it is. Let Lehner be the goalie for the next 5 years. If he can get you to the Stanley Cup, he can. If he can't, you know what? Maybe in that 4th or 5th year, he wants to get traded somewhere.
Yeah, buddy,
that's very likely.
You're preaching to the choir. You know my feelings on this.
Yeah.
I agree. I was with you 110% on this. And you know what? I was just thinking, I mean, if it's COVID, there's no way they could have predicted that. Nobody even heard of COVID whenever at the trial. I guess we had heard of it at the trade deadline, but we didn't realize it was going to devastate North America. But if it turns out it was the concussion thing, that's why either way, it doesn't bode well for him playing again this year.
Not here.
Or ever, maybe.
Yeah, and he's going to be a free agent.
That's a classic. I mean, that is a gigantic miscalculation by Bowman. That's a gamble that came up snake eyes, because you're right. They're stuck now because of the cap being flat, and Leonard's not coming back. And there's the guys that they have, in the NHL and at the AHL level are just probably not good bets to be number 1 goalies in the NHL ever, or very good ones. They're in deep crap right now, unless they can. And there's people saying that Oscarov's going to go before their pick, unless they get they get first overall. And I don't think
they get first overall. Like I wouldn't even say pick a goalie first overall.
Right.
Yeah.
Or Byfield.
Yeah. You're taking someone. Askarov is in the 9, 10, 11, 12 maybe range. Someone could jump up that needs a goalie, sure, because you have people like Ottawa who have 2 picks in the first 10.
But they got to do something. I mean, what are they going to do? They've got a stagnant cap. They have to re-sign Kubalik. Maybe they cut bait on Dylan Strome. But this is but they're still paying the debts of these big contracts that they gave out. and arguably overpaid some people, and they're still paying for that. And because things happen, pandemics happen and flat caps happen, and you know what? They didn't think they were going to happen, and they did.
Yeah, and here we are.
Yep.
But I mean, they were going to be still in trouble with or without the flat cap. I mean, they would have a little bit more room, but they were still in trouble, one way or the other. They're just in a lot of trouble now. But they're not the only team. So, anyway, so the Blackhawks are going to play. They're going to play an exhibition game on the 29th against the Blues. I fully expect that they're going to get stomped, and Malcolm Subban's going to give up 5 goals and probably 2 in the first period. And I'm just rattling that off the top of my head because I think they're going to go with Malcolm Subban. I don't agree with it, but I think they're going to go with Malcolm Subban. I think you might as well just try with Colin Delia. He had that playoff. He had that good playoff run in the AHL. If you're going to go young, you're going to get him a little bit of experience. Colin Delia is probably going to be your backup next year. Probably. I mean, you could qualify Subban. Okay, maybe he's going to be your backup. I'm not a Malcolm Subban fan. I don't hate the guy. I just don't think that he's more like Anton Forsberg and Cristobal Huet to me. Like he falls apart quickly. Yeah. And when he falls apart, it's like Humpty Dumpty. It's hard to put him back together. So that's how I feel about Malcolm Subban. I think Colin Delia, he's got the right mindset. He's, backstopped the Rockford Ice Dogs a couple of times. When he stepped in the NHL, he played all right. He didn't light the world on fire, but I mean, remember that Scott Foster game, they were beating the Winnipeg Jets with Colin Delia as the starter. Yeah, Scott Foster just finished the last 10 minutes.
Delia's a battler and he can get hot. I have a hard time seeing him do it over 5 games against the Edmonton.
Yeah, I do. I do too. I think it's going to be overwhelming.
Yeah. And he's going to see, he's probably going to see 40 plus shots every game.
Yeah. Yeah. And they give up the most high danger chances as well. I said that on Twitter. They give up the most shots on net a game and they give up the most high danger chances. Right there, that tells you that the defense is terrible and they're going to give up goals because you don't give up a lot of shots and a lot of high danger chances and not give up a lot of goals.
Right.
And look, just having two really good starting NHL goaltenders all year long with Robin Lehner and Corey Crawford, they still didn't make the playoffs.
Right.
What does that tell you? You don't have 2 good, one solid one starters in your arsenal anymore. You have one if he was able to play, possibly. And it looks like he's not going to play because and even if he can play, what kind of shape is he going to be in? He's not working out. He's going to show up late to camp, be out of shape, and then they're going to throw him in net, against Connor McDavid. Okay. Yeah. If you think that's going to be an advantage, you're going to be sorely confused or sorely upset. So.
Yeah, if he miraculously shows up, I want to know what was wrong with him.
Yeah. I don't think he is going to.
Yeah,
I really don't, because the way they're talking, it almost sounds like an epitaph that they're reading off about, that they're talking more about Malcolm Subban than they are Corey Crawford.
Yeah,
and if you thought Corey Crawford was going to be, your guy day one, or that you'd be talking more about Corey Crawford when he gets here. When he gets here, we'll be ready. He'll be ready. He's been working out. You don't just say nothing.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
And I realize that I'm going down the same hole again, but these things just are mind-boggling to me. You're the 31st ranked defense in the NHL. You're pinning all your hopes on a 35-year-old goalie who's missed most of the last couple of years with concussions. What is Stan Bowman doing this offseason to improve the problem of keeping pucks out of the back of your net? What has he done? He hasn't done anything. He signed a college defenseman in the kid from Wisconsin, who's not going to help in the NHL next year. They're making a big hullabaloo about Ian Mitchell, who is yet another talented offensive defenseman who is, quote, weak in his own end. And
he's probably going to get the Boquist treatment, like at least half the year in Rockford.
Right, which he should. But my point is, what is this organization doing to address the obvious and ongoing now 2+ years of just dreadful defense as a team? What is he doing?
Well, I don't mean to be a shit here on this, but the offseason hasn't started yet, technically. because they're going to have to do this playoff. But there's going to be an off season that's about 2 weeks long.
Yeah.
And what are they going to be able to do? They're not able to do a whole lot.
Money.
Yeah, they have to. They would have to. They would have to do addition by subtraction by buying out like Alimata, or buying
the defense better.
Exactly. That's addition by subtraction, really.
Somebody's talking about
subtraction by addition. Actually,
somebody was talking about buying out or trading DeHaan today. How does that make the defense better? He's your second best defenseman.
No, that actually makes you worse. Well,
right.
It's probably going to be better for getting younger players some experience and building that core. That's fine. That's a rebuild, but you're not going to be competing for a Stanley Cup next year or the year after that by buying those two guys out. You're just not. And then having to play Brent Seabrook.
I don't think they're going to. No. That doesn't bother me. But I guess I want to see how this team is going to start rebuilding from the net out. I just want to see it. And please don't tell me it's more 5'11", 170-pound puck moving defenseman.
Alex Vlasic.
Pardon me?
Alex Vlasic.
Well, better hope. Yeah. Start lighting candles.
I mean, they have Connor Murphy, so even though everyone wants to hate on him, they have Connor Murphy, which is, he's a bigger, he's more of a bigger physical guy.
I mean, and Connor Murphy to me is a number 5. On a decent team, he's potentially a number 5 on a decent team.
Yeah, not so decent team. He's a 4. Okay, yeah, sure.
I don't know. On a good team, I don't think he's a top 4 defenseman. I know, but fine. Yeah, I mean, but they just have so much work to do. In net and on the blue line, and they need centers because centers contribute defensively too. And I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
We'll see.
Well, all right. We start to wrap this up because we've been rambling for a while. My prediction is they probably go 4 or 5 games with Edmonton. I think they don't win the series. They get knocked out. I think they also don't get the first overall draft pick. That's what I think is going to happen. And I'm not trying to cast doom and gloom, but you still have to compete with 8 other teams. If they get it, great. That's wonderful. I'm happy as hell. But I don't think they're going to get it, and I think they're going to go out in 5 games against Edmonton. What do you think?
It could go 3. It could go 5. It's hard to say. I think Edmonton's going to take the series. I don't think the Hawks have the horses to beat Edmonton in their own building. In a playoff series. Edmonton has so much speed. I mean, you reminded me that they picked up Athanasiou. I mean, God, they're so fast.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna leave skid marks on the Hawks. And
they doubled their speed at the trade deadline when they picked up Tyler Ennis and they picked up Athanasiou. Now they don't have Mike Green. Mike Green isn't going to play, but
that's probably a good thing for them.
Yeah. I mean, that was all he did. All he was going to do is make your power play a little bit better. And that's already the top power play in the NHL. So,
and I just see guys like Carlson and Nurse just pushing them around in the offensive zone. I've seen them do that before, and I think they're going to do that in the series.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Larson and Nurse. Man, I keep
while the Blackhawks handled the Oilers pretty well in the regular season, I don't know that they can continue to handle them for 3 straight games that they can win.
Yeah, I just think it'll be a good experience for them, as you've said. I think that's a really good point. And and now I think I'm going to tell you something. They've been lucky. They've been really lucky. They were really lucky last year in the draft lottery. Mm-hmm. I don't know
Super
that
lucky.
They're going to get the first overall pick. I think it would be fantastic if they did.
Oh, I would love it. Oh, God, it would be wonderful.
They need it.
Yeah. But I just don't. I can't. Can they really jump up the draft 2 years in a row that far? First the 3rd overall, and then the 1st overall. I mean, that would be like something of epic Edmonton proportion, which would be such a weird situation because Edmonton did it. Now they're playing Edmonton, and then Edmonton could beat them and then give them the first overall draft pick, which would be such a weird connection. But I just can't see it happen. I can't see it happening. Not again.
They have a 1 in 8 chance.
Yeah. But I'd love it. I would love it if they did. If they did, I would eat it up.
And if they do get out of the first round, folks, I think that they probably would end up playing St. Louis, I believe, and they would get absolutely destroyed.
Yeah, if they make it past Edmonton, and they can, because Edmonton's terrible in net, just like the Blackhawks are. But I shouldn't say they can now because without Corey Crawford, I don't think there's any possibility they can get past them. But if they were able to have Corey Crawford in net, they could expose Kostitsyn and or what is it? Is that his name, Kostitsyn? And Mike Smith. They could expose those guys because they're not that great of goalies. Mike Smith's garbage, and the other guy's older. He's an older veteran, European goalie.
Hudobin?
No. It's not Kostitsyn. It starts with a. He's like 32. He's older, and he came in and he earned himself an extension. He came in as like a Lars Johansson last year, and he ended up getting a contract extension.
Yeah, I can't think of it. I can't think of it.
Anyway. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank because I wasn't thinking about having to talk about him. But anyway, we got 2 quick questions. Let's answer them really quickly, and then we'll get out of here. One of them was from our guy, Chuck Bessler. He sent us an email. He said, with the layoff and the return to play almost being the start of the new season, and young players improving from season to season, how much better do you think Doc Boqvist and the young Hawks will be when it resumes play? I think, at least right now, Doc looks like he's playing pretty well. He's maybe, improved to a next level. Not a great level, but a next level. He's only, 20 years old or whatever. So, Boqvist he showed some really good things. If you cast no expectations on Adam Boqvist, he could be, that youth, that exuberance, that, the young raw talent, he could play pretty well. But it's going to be in very specific areas. When I say play, he could play well. It would be in a very specific area, like on the offensive side of the rink, quarterbacking the power play or something like that. Not, not a full 200-foot game, 3 zones kind of thing. So, you could see a little extra out of Kirby Doc, I think, and maybe a little bit out of Boqvist. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I think it depends on who they're matching up against,
Yeah, they'd have to be sheltered pretty well. Koskinen, Mikko Koskinen. That's
right. I was about to tell you, it's Mikko Koskinen. I was about to tell you. I looked it up. I think it's hard to say. It depends on who they match up with, whether they will, acquit themselves well in the series, or if they'll, be, deer in the headlights. It's going to be hard to say.
Yeah. One last question. Ralph said on the Facebook Live, what do you think of the Taves isn't paid to score goals defense when people rag on his scoring slump these past few seasons? Well, I mean, it's somewhat true. He's not paid to always score goals. That's not necessarily his, he's paid to score goals too, but he is paid to be the leader of the Blackhawks. He's paid to be their first line center. He's paid to be probably their best two-way center on the team. Goals is part of it, but he's not just there to score goals. Patrick Kane is just there to score goals. That's what he's there for. Set up plays and score goals. That's what Patrick Kane's there for. He's not there to cover, to cover defensemen on the other side of the rink. He's just not.
No, right.
That's what he's not. He's paid to score for goals. Jonathan Toews, he has more of a broad game, more wide. That's why he's important to this team. John?
Yeah, I think I'm a huge Jonathan Toews fan and always have been, and I think that a lot of people don't appreciate all the little things he does in the course of a game. I mean, the fact that they don't really have, Zack Smith sort of was it this year, but they haven't always had a good secondary faceoff option for special team situations, including the penalty kill. And that's
not since Marcus Kruger.
Yeah, that's worn on Toews a lot, and he's told people that he really would like to see them, like when they brought in Antoine Vermette. That really helped his game a lot. And you'll recall Toews went on and had a fantastic playoffs that year.
I was going to say Jonathan Toews also said no one knows how COVID is spread, but I don't want to derail this conversation. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah, let's not touch that. But the point is I think that all that said, I do think that when you're making $10.5 million a year, you really need to be more consistent offensively. Now he had a pretty good year I believe this year, and I think last year he had a very good year.
Last year he had a career year.
Yeah, so I think that I think he's healthy, and he's been healthy for the last year and a half, and I think you're seeing a level of productivity out of him that's reasonable to expect at age 30 or 31 now, and he's not, to me, he's not the problem with this team.
No, he's not. No, he's not. I mean, while the contract probably has $1.5 million extra on it that the Blackhawks could really use back, you might be able to say the same thing with Patrick Kane too. I mean, an extra $3 million wouldn't hurt this team to be able to go out and do something.
Right.
And on top of the Brent Seabrook thing, an extra $2 million at least, maybe $3 million off that contract. Yeah, you have $6 million there. So.
Right. And that's, that could be making a big difference. I mean, especially for a team that really needs, if they were to compete, they really need, some veteran help to compete, but I think that horse has left the barn.
Yeah. I mean, we'll talk more, I think, after whatever happens to the Blackhawks happens, about what they should be doing in this very short off season. We can't really, it's going to be hard to kind of speculate right now, but, let's just concentrate on the hockey. And you know what? It's great. Sure. I'm going to love to watch hockey again. And sure, it's going to be good to watch a team that I'm familiar with and that I've watched all year long and studied all year long be in the mix of things. But I don't think they're going to do much. It's just going to be nice to watch something other than, repeats of movies and Netflix shows that we've all been watching for 4 months. So,
yeah. No, it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to, I'll be watching the Hawks, and I'll be watching a lot of Columbus Blue Jackets.
Yeah.
And
I think a lot of people are going to get to know other teams a lot better than they normally would have, just because it's going to be good exposure for the sport. Unfortunately, the exposure could come at the cost of, players getting sick, and that's why I don't think it necessarily is going to finish either.
I really hope not, because I think that based upon everything I'm hearing, that a lot of people don't get any symptoms, or some people just get really sick for a few weeks. Mm-hmm. And that's the bulk of people. But there's some people who are having lasting lung damage or heart damage or kidney damage, and that would be enough to end an NHL player's career. And
blood clotting issues and stuff like that. Yeah, there's really some stuff going on.
That would be an absolute shame if that were to happen. And I really hope that does not happen.
I hope it doesn't either. I don't want to be right about this. I don't want to be right that it doesn't end. I'd like to see it end. I'd like to see them pull this off. And I just want to go on record to say that everyone's going to say we're haters and we're betting and we're wanting it to go this way. We're thinking rational about what we think is probably going to happen and what is likely to happen.
Right.
But you know what? If they pull it off in the bubble, no one gets sick. No teams get, thrown out because their star player gets sick or anything like that. They go right through. They they raise the Stanley Cup. Great.
I will be pleasantly
NHL.
Surprised.
Awesome.
I'll be pleasantly surprised, and I'll be glad to admit that my doubts were unfounded.
Yeah, I would. I don't care.
Yeah.
We're just trying to be pragmatic and realistic. That's all we're trying to do.
If I were to bet, I don't think they're going to finish it, but that's me.
I don't think anyone's betting that or anyone with have a brain is betting that they're going to finish. But you know what? There's probably a guy out there who's putting $10 on it or something like that that's going to come back and win $1 million or some nonsense when the casino's open. Actually, they're open, but yeah. All right, cool. Let's get out of here, right?
Yep.
All right, cool. I don't have any huge last plugs. Puckhockey.com. I posted online. They got all the new stuff. I got a new commercial I'm going to put into the podcast having to do with puck hockey that I recorded yesterday. Our boys, or our friends, Matt and Amy over there at Puck Hockey, go over there, get some stuff. Use The-Rink to get your stuff. The new Slayer stuff's awesome. I just bought a whole bunch of it. I was going to wear a Slayer shirt, but I wanted to wear the white shirt. It looks better with the beard. Yeah, it's a whole thing. I know beard guy problems. But go over there, buy some stuff. Maybe throw us a little bone, get a t-shirt or a hat, Rink one. And that would be cool. We would appreciate that.
Yeah.
You got any plugs?
Speaking of Matt and Amy, I hope you found your cat. She was looking for a kitty cat on social media the other day.
Oh boy.
And yeah, it's kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah, you don't want to.
She came home. We're going to have some announcements about some new writers joining us, or at least one new writer, possibly two.
There could be more too. I mean, this is just today. So yeah.
But I think we're going to, at the very least, we're going to have an announcement about who's going to cover Rockford, because I know that a lot of the listeners and readers have really come to expect very robust coverage of Rockford. And I think that's going to be more important in the next couple of years as, the Hawks move into more of a rebuilding posture anyway, which I think is going to happen on some level.
Granted, the AHL can actually play.
Yeah. And so I think
I
that this is going to be a real and an increasingly important part of our coverage. So we're going to have an announcement about that, and we're going to be really busy. We're going to try to pump out some Blue Jackets content, as well as we're going to have Toronto content. We're going to have Colorado content, and we're going to have tons of Blackhawks coverage. So
yeah, Chris already put together an article on Toronto and what to expect from them. So that's great. I've been trying to pump out the Hawks stuff. So we'll see how that goes. And Columbus, I know you're going to be hitting some Columbus stuff, so that's good stuff too.
Yeah, we're gonna have a series preview article that one of our new writers and I have started talking about and bouncing around. We're going to try to get that up before the Columbus Toronto series. So,
and our Colorado crew, don't forget about them. They kick ass. So there's going to be some Colorado stuff coming as well.
That's under the capable leadership of Aaron Goldschmidt. So
the great and wonderful Aaron Goldschmidt.
That's right.
Speaking of great and wonderful, though, you did mention it, Mario Terabasi.
Yeah.
I just want to, big shout out to our boy Mario. He moved on. He's doing his own podcast now, Mario on Hockey. We fully support it. There's no hard feelings. We love Mario. In fact, we were lucky to have him for as long as we had him. And I know John agrees with me on that one.
Oh, totally. And I'll tell you what, Mario is rolling some podcast game. He's had some big guests, and they're really good shows. And he's really good. He's really good at that. And we're super proud of Mario, and he's always part of our crew, one way or the other. So
yeah, we love him. He's family. He's one of the founders that founded it. With me, John and I, we all started it with Aaron and Mario too. So we love Mario to death. He's worked his ass off for us. So please support Mario. You can support us and Mario at the same time. That's fine. Because Mario kind of still is in the fray a little bit. We're still friends, and we still talk, and he shares information and all that stuff. So you could listen to both. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing that says you can't support both us and Mario. So
that's right.
Please do.
Yes.
All right. That said, let's see. You find all our comprehensive content, www.the-rink.com. On all social media, you guys know how to find us there. Take a chance. Head over to iTunes, rate and review us for the audio portion of this. Otherwise, this is going to be on YouTube too, so you can leave a comment there if you'd like. All that. I guess we're probably good, right? So thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to download, listen, to support us. Wear a mask. Until next episode, see you on the rink.
Wear a mask.